see. Okay, so Phil, if you want to get started, we can. Oh, Jody's on from the LRC. So that'll be good. Thank you, thank you, Christy. We have those blocks again, Phil.
No, I don't see Jody yet. I'm looking at the
Christy Rogers.
Okay. Okay, the block should go away soon here.
Okay. Yep. Okay. So welcome to everyone for the January Development Activities Meeting sponsored by the Southside Community Council. And where Southside Community Council is a registered community organization. And if we're into our 7th meeting. So for those of you that may be new to the to these meetings, I ask that you go to the Southside Community Council's website to learn more about Southside's, how Southside Community Council became a registered community organization, why it became a community organization, and how Southside, beyond these development activities meetings, has been involved in development over the years. If you go to our website and go to, I think it's About Us, and then news and information, and you'll find the information about the RCO there. After I share the agenda, we will then speak to Phil, Wu, and Anthony Kobach will speak about the how to participate in these virtual dams, and then we'll get on to the projects. Our first is at 1712, or the address might be 1715 East Carson Street. And this is, we all know it as a dollar bank. And we'll be hearing from Heather Knuff, who's the president of Integrity Design, and Michelle Plevel of Dollar Bank. She's a project manager there. Then we will hear from, then we will go to 2401 East Carson Street. And for those of us, I don't know if it's merely a Pittsburgh thing, but we will no doubt always call it the former Cogos. And we'll be hearing from Haley Linville and Sean Smith, both who are with Site Enhancement Services. Both of these projects will be going to the Historic Review Commission. And then we will also share next steps in case you are, you're thinking about these projects and you have additional comments. We'll share with you how you can do that. So I'd like to turn this over to Phil, who is our host and also a city planner. And then Anthony will also be Anthony Kobach, who is writing down all of the questions and answers. So those, and that is placed on the development city planning's website, the portion around development activities meetings. So you can always go to that to see, to refresh yourself as to what occurred at these meetings. They are all also recorded, and those recordings are on the Southside Community Council's YouTube page. So I wanted to get that
Barbara,
about it.
Also to clarify, Bob mentioned last month, just as a clarification, that these reports are also shared with the commission body as well. So in this case, it would be Historic Review Commission gets a copy of the report, or I pass it on to the staff. That staffs the for the commission members.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And Phil will share with you how to participate.
All right. Thank you, Barbara. So yeah, I'm just going to go over a few housekeeping items related to participating in this Zoom meeting. First, if folks run into any technical issues, please tap the Q&A button and I'll help you out there. If you would like to ask questions for our presenters tonight, please use the chat feature to type in your question, or you can tap the raise hand button if you would like to ask your question out loud. We'll get to all of your questions at the end of each presentation in chronological order. Also, if you're calling in by phone and would like to ask a question, I'll announce the last 4 digits of your phone number and unmute you when it's your turn to speak. For our presenters tonight, we ask that you be mindful of any attendees who may be on their phones or who might not be able to see the slides, and to try your best to describe what's on each of the slides that you're presenting. And as Barbara mentioned, this meeting is being recorded so that Southside Community Council can share it for anyone who wants to view it later. And with that, I think we're ready to start on our presentations. So I'm going to turn it over to Heather and Michelle, who will be presenting on the relocation of the Dollar Bank ATM at 1712 East Carson. And Heather, would you like to share your screen?
Yes, I would, please. Can you let me know if you are seeing the screen?
We are.
Yeah, we see the screen.
So this is the location for our project, and this is the elevation of the existing conditions. Currently, the ATM is located right here in the last window enclosure. Dollar Bank's interior space runs from this point down to this window here. As part of a reconfiguration, this Dollar Bank will be giving this area back. So internally and on the exterior, we will be taking this ATM and relocating it down into this window here. Oops, wanted to give you a close-up. See if I can zoom this in any larger. So currently you will see that there hasn't been any modifications to the exterior brick, lintels, or sills. And the intent is on the new design, it will be this exact same layout. Currently, the adjacent window, which is still a functioning window, has that's a just Dollar Bank interior film on the glazing. So there isn't any modifications at all to the glazing. The actual finished elevation in drawing format, let me bump this over because I think it went on the other screen. Let's see here. Okay, so this is the elevation of what the property facade will look like. And you can see we're not doing anything at all to the existing entrance, which is really the landlord space. Here is the position for the relocated ATM. And in this window here, again, there isn't any modifications. It would be potentially a marketing film applied so that any pedestrian cannot gain access into the ATM room which is right behind here. So there aren't any other modifications to the exterior that are part of this project. The lighting remains the same and all of the signage. And that is pretty much the project. Any questions?
So one question that came up as we were sharing these slides.
Yes.
If you go to the slide, the window, just stay on that, on what you have. The window that's closest to the entrance.
This right here.
That it was shared with me that was the original ATM machine a while back, and that may be why it's closed as it is.
Correct.
And the question is, why isn't the ATM going back to that spot?
And the answer to that is when the ATMs are modified, the manufacturer modifies the size, and Dollar Bank changed vendors, the ATM doesn't fit in that location.
Okay.
Also, Barbara, on the inside of the building, there's a small alcove room directly behind here. And that room is not large enough to house the ATM.
Okay, thank you.
We have a question also from Jeff and Kitty. Will trash receptacle be provided next to the ATM?
Currently there is not a trash receptacle provided. I don't know if there is one provided on the actual street, but it's not provided as part of the equipment.
I think what often happens, and we see that, where there are other ATMs, is there's a tendency to take your receipt or anything else that you have and just then throw it on the ground.
Right.
As opposed to, and I think PNC Bank does have a trash can. It's not a very attractive trash can, but it's a trash can next to their ATM on South 18th Street. Any other questions that anyone has?
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear me, Barbara.
Yep,
Yes.
I can even see you.
Great. Yeah, the questions here are sort of in the former ATM location next to the entrance door that is now an opaque panel. If you can't take the ATM back to that location, is there an opportunity to open that up and get glazing in there, even if it's sort of something translucent, just to reestablish that window so we don't lose additional windows?
I could pose that question to the landlord because that's actually not part of Dollar Bank's space.
Okay. And then I think the other thing from the LRC's point of view and the district guidelines, since they have a precedent here of an ATM in a window, I don't think it'll be controversial through HRC to move this location. The graphics that'll be on the other window will be on the inside of the glass, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And that's within your right. Generally, the guidelines want to keep the storefronts transparent, or as much of them transparent. Are you doing that for what reason? Just to block views into that room? Is there any part of that that could remain transparent, or is it just a dark room, normally a closet?
They would not want you to be able to see into that room because then it would be evident as to where the money is within
Right.
the ATM.
And is it possible just to be translucent so we have a little bit of light or anything coming out of that?
I think that the graphic itself, the way that it was in its existing locations, there's actually a light box. So it does have illumination from behind, so there is light.
Okay, that would work.
Okay.
I think that's it. Any other changes I'm thinking? So what's happening at the place where the ATM is coming out, that glass will be restored and the window restored?
That as part of our contract, we just have that out and infilling the window, and the landlord has, that space will be taken back over from the landlord. So I don't know what his design intent is for that space.
Will that become a separate tenant space outside
Yes.
of Dollar Bank?
Yeah.
So they may do a new entrance or some other plan?
Yes.
Okay. Well, so the restoration of that, we'll have to discuss that through HRC. The restoration of that window will need to be discussed at least and decided,
Okay.
we
good.
accept just an opaque infill panel for now, and
Right.
since we now have 3 windows or a 4th one with the vinyl, taken over by this change, or could there be an interim restoration of that window pending, or some indication that something's coming down the line fairly quickly to restore that window and make that storefront changes. We just probably would want to hear the future plan is imminent and or not going to be pushed off indefinitely.
Would that be something then that would need to be submitted by the actual landlord and that his team?
It's a good question in that your work is causing that window now to free up. So, I think we'd have to discuss whether it's part of Dollar Bank's and the landlord's job under this application to restore that window, or if the HRC would accept an interim panel for the time being with the thought that an application is pending for that storefront restoration. I don't think we'd want to leave it just hanging indefinitely where that could be, a painted plywood panel for years to come, so I think that needs to be addressed in some way.
Okay, so I'm gonna make myself a note that as part of this project, the consideration would be to replace the window in its original state, I'll just say. Okay,
Yeah, to match the existing adjacent windows.
yeah,
Yeah, I think, Heather, that was going to be my question. And I just think what Bob is saying, you can see what happened where the other ATM, where we asked if you could move the ATM back. What we want to avoid having that happen again, because if we end up with a vacant storefront on the side and you just put a piece of plywood there,
right,
that's a persisting condition. So I think
okay,
it'd be helpful if we saw what the plan was to immediately kind of mitigate that problem.
okay,
Yeah, I frankly can't remember when this ATM moved to that far right location. I'd have to go back through the HRC minutes to see if it was even reviewed and approved.
yeah, we did a review on this project when we renovated, and it was 2008.
Okay,
And that's when Dollar Bank actually expanded and took the whole facade and put the signage up and did the gooseneck lighting and everything.
yeah. So to Matt's comment, my comments, we don't want to lose more clear glass into the first floor. We'd like to open them up. So swap them
Okay.
out if we can, if you need to patch up that other one where the ATM is coming out and put a solid panel, try really hard to open up the panel that's next to the entranceway, try to not lose more and more transparency on the storefront would be our pitch.
Okay,
And going back to that trash can near the ATM, there was a question, and others, I certainly don't have the answer to it. Others on this call may, is it a code requirement to have a trash can by an ATM?
It's not in the district guidelines, so it's something else. And my recollection is, yeah, we lobbied PNC as part of their ATM installation to get one there. I think they actually, the first one that went in didn't have it, and everyone was upset when they came back to do, I think, a larger one and updated their ATM and replaced it. We all pushed for a garbage can. They just kind of agreed on a gentleman's agreement. It wasn't, I think, part of the HRC's purview or requirement to have one, but there were a bunch of little trade-offs as they expanded their ATM presence there to make that happen. So yeah, it's been kind of a courtesy and a gentleman's agreement from my recollection. I don't know of any other city code, maybe someone else on the call may, know for sure, but I'm not aware of a city code for ATMs to have a trash can. It's
I
just
was
being a
having a
good neighbor.
hard time hearing just before, and I don't know if the question was asked. The window that the ATM is going to go into now under the dollar sign there, is there any plans of taking that glass work out of there and putting it over next to the door where it used to be a window to the left? Yeah, right there.
That I will have to find out because I don't know this over here. When we did the project in 2008 was already in its current state with the, faux panel inside there. So I have never dimensioned that window or looked to see what the condition of the sill is or anything. In putting glass back in there, I'm sure that that could be an option to consider, but it doesn't open into the lobby. It's just a small little circular alcove that must have been originally built when the building was here to house something.
Well, it would make it look nicer to get that glass frame and everything, even if it goes nowhere, but it would make the building look more complete again.
Okay. I'll put that in my notes.
Surprising that hasn't been graffitied over.
Right.
I probably should not have said that.
Yeah.
Probably not.
I apologize. Does anyone else have any questions?
We also had one comment from Marty. Maybe instead of a trash can, a trash slot cut into and through the wall underneath the
Okay.
With the nature of the ATM, it actually sits on the floor. So we wouldn't be, and takes up a lot of space behind that actual ATM that pokes through on the street side. So we likely wouldn't be able to put in a trash slot below where you see the ATM as it's being taken up by that space behind. We could definitely provide a trash can outside beside the ATM though.
Okay, any other comments, questions?
A quick question for Heather.
Yes.
That slide you had up earlier with the section through the
Yes.
window opening. If you
Yes.
could zoom in on that. I'm just curious if the plan is to leave the window frame elements in place, take the glass out so that future generations or iterations of this building, if that needs to be a window again at some point, years down the road, if that would make it easier to leave portions of the window system in place.
I'm really basing it on the requirements of the machine and the clearance from brick pilaster to brick pilaster to determine how that's going to fit through there. So, and I will look at the exact dimension, but in reality, the whole frame piece, the wooden frame piece comes out.
Okay, so then maybe the landlord puts that in a storage area.
Right. Right.
Okay,
And we could put that in our notes that when the glazing comes out, it has to be salvaged. The whole entire window.
great. Yeah, that was my only.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, I have one other slide to put up. Next steps. Share my screen here again. And as far as next steps for the project, any additional comments can be shared with Southside Community Council by email, info@southsidecommunitycouncil.org. The project will present in front of the Historic Review Commission and to provide submit testimony, you can do so by email or to send a letter to the Department of City Planning. And that meeting will be held virtually over Zoom. So the format will be somewhat similar to our format here tonight.
And currently at these meetings, we are not aware of a date for to be in front of the Historic Review Commission. What we will do, as we learn how to communicate regarding these RCO these DAM meetings, we'll make sure that once we are aware of the date that this will be coming before the Historic Review Commission, we will put this on our website, and we also can put that on our Facebook page so that those of you that are interested in either providing additional comment or viewing the commission meeting, you'll know what date it is. And for those of you that have never attended one of those meetings, with Zoom, it's much easier, and also it's on the YouTube channel. And they really are very interesting meetings. And what's nice is that East Carson Street, we are one of the first. Our district presents, right after like Allegheny West. So it's not like we are, the meetings take a long time. And what's very interesting is that the commissioners really do take their time in asking questions and providing guidance. And so if we were further down on the list, it would be a long time sitting there watching the meeting. But they are very interesting. At least they are to me. So, and
Barbara, can I add something?
yes.
Besides the alphabetic benefit of the historic district, also the meetings are usually the first Wednesday of the month, but the RCO has 30 days for a response. So naturally, this meeting, as Barbara said, it's not posted because of one is it wouldn't be until March, and it's also dependent on the applicant too and their schedule. They might not request to be on right away, so that's why it's usually we have the slide that just says I think you haven't had to be determined TBD. Just as Barbara was saying, as far as how to check back with that.
Yeah, thank you. There is that 30 days that we have to talk among ourselves to get additional comment, suggestions and all. And then we will share that with Heather and Michelle, and, they can determine when they will go before the Historic Review Commission. So thank you. Thank you, Heather and Michelle. That was
Thank you.
We can hit that button. This was easy. So,
That was the easy button.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can stay or you can leave. We won't be offended. So our next is the former Cogo site. And I believe Sean Smith is on and can present.
Yeah, yes, I'm here.
Okay, great.
Sean, would you like to share your screen?
Yeah, yes. Okay, am I sharing my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for your time. We're here to discuss the re-imaging of the the former gas station located at 2401 East Carson Street. Sunoco, Amoco at Cohen has taken over or purchased this property, and they're looking to rebrand this. The conditions are going to be similar. They're looking to or actually they're going to be in the same condition. They're just looking to modify it and change the brand to the Amoco Cohen update. You'll see on this slide, the proposal here is reskinning this particular location and putting the Amoco logo, as well as there's going to be a minor blue accent with a light bar behind that. So this will illuminate, and the Amoco itself will illuminate, as well as we're proposing to add 2 channel letters, G on the left elevation and on the right elevation, and then D, which is the back elevation, will just have no illuminated canopy structure. Then here's just gives you an idea of what the Amoco emblem looks like, the channel letters, and then the emblem itself. And then obviously we're going to do reskin the dispensers. So if we go through here, we're giving you an idea of what the customer is going to look like at that particular location. This is what the dispenser currently looks like, and this is what we're proposing to do with the reskin the dispenser. Doesn't mean removing the dispenser or the pumps or anything of that nature. However, we are going to reskin the existing condition. The building this is what the building currently looks like. We're looking to not put any to-goes or anything on the building itself, changing the color. We are looking to change this sign out to Cohen. And then your air pump and your dispenser location specs gives you an idea. It's consistent with our corporate identity and our colors. Is the Pantone selection for these particular accents for the building, as well as the canopy and the structure itself. The dimensions of the structure. And then here's the illuminated internal specs. It's LED, individual channel letters, how the attachment methods, and it's backlit. So it's illuminated just on the letters themselves, facelit. These are the calcs. This gives you an idea of the Amoco emblem itself and how it's attached to the canopy. The light layout for the Amoco, they're using different colors for, I'll go back to, for the accent. And this is the engineering for the canopy itself. So the canopy structure's been reviewed and has to have structural integrity for wind loads and snow loads. And the last thing we're proposing to do at this particular location is update the existing freestanding sign. We had manual here, excuse me. We're proposing to do LED change for prices. We're removing a few gas options and staying within the same height and square footage that's currently there. And we're utilizing the existing square footage. We're not expanding on that. We'll rehab the poles by painting them. We've reviewed the particular location and make sure the site and sign is structurally sound to be able to handle the modifications and the updates that we're proposing here. Gives you an idea of the cross section, what it would look like, kind of give you an idea of the nighttime illumination. And this is how it'll be LED strips for the 2 panels. This is going to be illuminated amber for the pricers. And then this is just the specs for the installation and how that structure should be attached. And then obviously here's a plot plan to show this is the one we have on file, and we are staying within the existing conditions, not expanding on the property, not expanding any of the conditions. We're just modifying those. And we respectfully, I open up to any questions or comments at this time.
Okay, any comments?
Yeah, I'll make a comment or two. So Sean, have you read through the historic district guidelines and the neighborhood sign guidelines for the district?
Yes.
Okay. So the things that I think we would comment on is, so a couple of distinctions. First, the property in the building and the whole gas station is what we call a non-contributing structure, right? It doesn't fall into the late 1800, early 1900 Victorian architecture that the district was set up to protect and kind of guide. So in that sense, you're kind of out on your own. The guidelines do talk about signage, and particularly neighborhood sign guidelines. And in that sense, this business is what would we say, non-conforming, in that it has existing signage that is grandfathered into the district, particularly the monument sign, because it's too big and too high, based on what the district guidelines were established in the 90s, say that type of sign should be. So the fact that you're keeping it, not changing size and shape and all that stuff, that's you're right within the purview of HRC has been, even though you're changing the business, changing the sign, that you don't have to necessarily make it comply, take it down and remove it and replace it. They have allowed, if there's a precedent like that set, to continue the grandfathering of the size and shape. But the graphics begin then to, there have been some precedents made at the BP station and the Cogo's location in past applications to change those signs that are now going to kind of dictate what we do here, or what we suggest HRC follow through here. So with that, I guess my comment specifically on this signage here, you're starting to exceed the number of signs allowed on the business.
Mm-hmm.
You have some that have been established on the canopy, I believe, 2 Sunoco signs in graphics only, not illuminated, are on the canopy now, correct?
Correct. Yeah,
So
that's a non-illuminated. Yes.
Yeah, so the decision would be made whether to allow you to keep those non-conforming extra signs and replace them with the Amico lettering.
Mm-hmm.
And I doubt we would allow where we would advise against adding a third Amico sign, particularly because it's non-compliant in 2 ways. It's an extra sign in addition to what you're allowed. And it's also kind of, I believe, is it fully acrylic, internally illuminated box sign? Yeah.
Well, it's embellished, it's acrylic, it's on a channel. That's up for interpretation, but
No, it's an internally illuminated box sign.
internally illuminated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What we have allowed, what has been allowed in the district, and you'll see it at the BP station, and you have a temporary bag over the one at the other Cogo's location. I can't remember, but I'll dig up the application from 2016 for that. But I believe what has been allowed in the district is basically an opaque sign panel with push-through acrylic translucent letters.
Okay.
It's internally illuminated. It's just not the full acrylic face is glowing, and the push-through graphics are allowed to be illuminated then. So you either black out on the backside, inside the sign, the basic sign face, and allow just the acrylic parts of the printed sign or the graphics to be illuminated, or you do an opaque metal panel and then push through acrylic letters or acrylic shapes in this case. So I think we'll take issue perhaps with this extra Amico sign on the end that wasn't there before. Just a comment, and my other colleague, Jody's on the call, he could pipe up, and eventually we'll go through the full LRC, our other colleagues, and kind of bat this around a bit. But I'm curious to see if anyone in the community has a point of view on this. We'd certainly take that under consideration. And I want to talk about the monument sign specifically as well.
Well, just to tag on to what you said, that front Amico sign that exceeds above the canopy, I'd have to look at the specs on this proposal and the code, but the street Main Street sign code that is specific to Carson Street, I think these letters would also exceed the total height allowed. They'd need a zoning variance as well. I'm not sure, but I think that may be an issue.
Yeah, letters are maximum 18 inches in the district, so I don't know what they are on that sign. And I guess it also depends on, so you're going to change the acrylic box sign on the building, correct? That's what I heard. That wasn't in your package though.
That's correct.
Correct, you're changing it, or correct, it's not in this application?
It wasn't a part of this application.
Okay.
When on this particular screen, are we saying these letters or the entire emblem would be considered?
So on the
18 inches?
BP station sign, they have like a sunburst graphic.
Yep. Yes, sir.
That graphic is pushed through and rear illuminated. So great question. It would be up to some interpretation here because it's non-conforming. But I think the whole issue of adding a sign could be an issue, in that you're above the number of signs allowed for the property.
And Sean, what I'm saying is the Amico that you have up right now,
Yes,
from
sir.
the top of the A to the bottom of the A, Bob is saying there's an 18-inch max on that height. And there's also a total square footage for this sign and for the property. So it may not be just an LRC historic issue, but you may need an actual zoning variance to do anything with a sign that isn't already there. Because I think you would exceed the total square footage of signage, and this may be too high of a height of font where you are, is I think what my point was.
Yeah, I believe you're allowed 40 square feet.
40 square feet on ground signs. There's a calculation on the facade of the building, on signs on the building are allowed to have, but letters, regardless of square footage, are 18 inches. Yeah, so there's a lot of calculating you can do here. And essentially the thought here is you're non-conforming, and you will probably be allowed to stay non-conforming. You just can't become more non-conforming. You become less non-conforming if you can. So that's sort of where LRC and I believe HRC would draw the line. Like adding signs that weren't signs, you're exceeding the number of signs, making it more non-conforming. And therefore we probably speak to that. We haven't really gotten into the pumps in the past. The pumps are doing their own thing, and they're not really building signage per se. So we've never really, I recall, ever had a discussion about the numbers of signs and calculating signage that's actually on the pump. It's they seem to be more diminutive and sort of branding. Never really counted them as building signs, but the tall signs, and now they do additional graphics, and there's a canopy for additional signage, I think would come into issue because that has not been the other stations.
Bob?
Yeah.
Before we get too far away from the zoning comment, I just wanted to clarify, there were some emails back and forth, I don't know if it was Sean or for someone else, for the applicant, that it's definitely, this proposal is going before HRC, but there was some comment about zoning variances. Sean, I don't know if you know of any of those in your application right now, because those should be addressed tonight, but it really, for me, as far as identifying which boards or bodies you're going before, that one was kind of up in the air. Do you know anything more about that, Sean?
I don't. I'll need to research it to see if there were any variances that were granted for the property. But what I'm looking at.
No. I mean that you as an applicant are going before the zoning board to request the variance. That was in some emails on my end. You're going before HRC, but the comment was that you were potentially going before the zoning board of adjustment, but I don't know what for. And usually I have that in the report, and you as the applicant addresses that. But you don't, as far as you know, you're not going for the ZBA.
Oh, no, I misspoke. I didn't know. I was under the impression you were asking if there were some existing variances, but no, our intention would likely move forward with proposing this before the zoning board, get your either favorable or not favorable recommendation, and get your input to move forward in that direction. So I apologize. The short answer is yes, we were going to move forward and at least seek the proposed variation, or at least request it.
What is that proposed?
Andy, we're getting a lot of feedback from your microphone. We can sound like Darth Vader.
Thank you. Yeah.
Say, Luke, I am your father for us all, please.
Luke, Sean, I am your father. No. If someone else can speak for me, then if this is sounding weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is the variance you're asking for? I guess.
I believe the variance that we're asking for is exactly what was denoted earlier. We're exceeding the number of signs. And I would assume in the historical area, I'm looking at the sign code, and I don't believe internal illumination is necessarily allowed as well. And the canopy itself, with having that light bar, and the height requirement, even on the Amico letters, they're 22 inches, where 18 inches is allowed as well.
What about the flags? Do those have to be included, Bob, in your experience? And the banners that are on light posts? Those are also more signage, in my opinion, branding signage. Well, one of them is advertising, the other is branding. That was on slide 1 and slide. Yes, first one here, if you look at J and I on the second line, their illuminated blue lines is J, I believe, and I is, let me see if I have this right, install flag signs 10'6" from ground. It doesn't say how many or what they are, but I'm sure they're not blank.
Yeah, questions. So again, I think LRC's position, I don't want to speak for all the other members, but generally in the past, based on the other gas stations, is we're trying to keep a cap and a certain control, a certain not expanding non-conformity, and particularly not setting all new precedents with this station that then the other two stations, because Cohen owns the other station. I believe, Sean, you don't have to answer this, it's rhetorical, but you're likely to update that other station in a similar way. So like many things that happen in the district, if we allow more non-conformity, it ripples down through the district and has a detrimental effect. So we'll likely take the position that we want to keep a cap on the amount of non-conformity to match what's there or diminish it and not expand it. So yes, if there are additional banner signs and other stuff being added that the other stations don't have and aren't there now, we'll probably speak negatively towards that and want those not to be installed. It's just a different thing here in the district. The guidelines speak to a certain degree of that kind of non-conformity issue. So yes, the lettering 18-inch max, that's been hard and fast through the district for everybody. And again, the additional signage that we can all take issue with. The lighting is interesting on the canopy, because then some with the argument I can hear already is it part of the sign and therefore maximizing even more square footage of sign, or is it lighting, or is it something in between like a graphic? And I can't say up and down the district where we've had that situation. And again, we would probably look to the existing canopies at the other stations and this one and say that it doesn't have lighting and that kind of striping now in lighting, illuminated. Do we want that in the district? And to set a precedent where the other two stations then would also begin to add lighting. So we'll bounty that back and forth. I don't know my stance, particularly at this moment, but if the community has a stance, I'd love to know about it.
Sean, just again, I feel like it's the same story, and it's kind of what Anthony was saying. It's hard for us. Like, I'm here trying to just give advice for like some of the people in the community council. When you don't have the variances for us to review, you're eventually going to end up sending us or me a piece of paper that lists variances. And then I'm going to have to try to assume that I know what the variance is applied to or how you're interpreting what the variance is. But if you have them here today, we can ask you where the variance is applied and what was seeking a variance and what was of right, and how to frame our understanding of what you're really asking for. You know, there's another, I think the expanded LED in the price sign is also now over 18 inches.
Yeah.
That's going to be modified signage. That's another expansion. So it just seems like everywhere where you're modifying, you're bringing the expansion over not just the historic guidelines, but the actual zoning code. And the zoning code on this portion of Carson Street was designed specifically for Carson Street. It's the only place in the city that has this signage code. So, you know, if we could at least see the variances and try to understand what you're seeking variance on, it would be helpful to review the project.
Yep. No, I completely understand. And we theoretically, maybe we should have gone to a work session to go through this. And I'd consider this as one as well. Looking through the code and looking at the information, I do understand that there's quite a bit of deviation we're asking for this particular site. And that's why I'm valuing your information and your input so I can take it back and convey that information to the powers that be, and we can make a decision on what can be supported, and if they want to seek a variation, the likelihood of that being that to prevail. Considering that this particular location has its own ordinance and signage code, and it hasn't been deviated, that's good information to have as well, to convey that information to my client, to have a candid conversation on what we should propose here.
Sean, do you know if you've actually had a conversation, or someone's had a conversation with our zoning staff? Because we don't want it to be a mystery. I mean, our staff, Phil and I are on the planning side, but we're in the city planning department. The zoning staff will help you identify and list the variances that if you want to seek those, they would list them for you. You go through them.
I mean, you all have been saying it, and I'm looking at it as well. I mean, the illuminated light panel, I don't know if you can see my graphic up now. That's kind of what it looks like in the evening. So that's exactly what it looks like in the evening. The canopy that we're proposing. And
as a neighbor, I'm going to say that that's definitely a highway or a mid-type road approach, and not a commercial district appropriate lighting solution for this location. I think the neighbors would just be appalled because it's going to be way too bright. I think you don't need that much. You have businesses right up against you on both sides and residents right behind you. I think we have to ask you to consider toning it down. The upper lights, the canopy lights, and all the strip lighting and stuff like that. It's already a bright district, and there's a lot of people competing for everybody's eyesight, and I just think it's not an appropriate solution for the location that you're in. Other locations, I agree. It's great. It's marketing, it's branding, it's great, but not for Carson.
Hey, Mike, isn't the residential really is behind that in Wright's Way, and then off to the left would be off on 24th Street. So if this is the lighting that you'd see on Carson Street, actually it might brighten the place up a little bit.
Well, it's you ever seen the Seinfeld episode about the chicken sign?
Yeah,
Yeah, there's good signage and bad signage, you know.
This is Quaylin. You have to remember that just catty corner to this is an apartment building. And this is going to illuminate that apartment building all the way around. And I think some of the people who live in there I agree with Mike. I think they probably would have some problems with the degree of illumination from this. You know, if there's a way for you not to make it as bright, then I think you're probably better off. But there's an apartment building, and hell, this will come all the way up to my house.
Yeah.
There's actually a lot of apartments right there on Carson. And there's a lot on Wright's Way that would be affected by a lot of light right there. I think this would affect a lot of people around that area.
Yeah,
you're right. I take back my comment.
Yeah, whether you're pro-light or non-pro-light or con-light. So again, it's sort of taking the canopy, which is not illuminated in that fashion, and trying to illuminate it. It will ripple down through the other Cohen location. It will likely then be picked up by PP. And Double Wide Grill has a canopy. They'll probably want it on theirs, and then it's going to become like a signboard. So then every other business in the district will want similar illumination on all their signboards. So these precedents are important, and we argue against them or try to factor that in very carefully, because we see how things are multiplied now through the district. So guidelines don't say you're allowed to have lighting specifically on a canopy. They don't always talk about canopies. They talk about the number of signs. If you talk about illumination, we'll make a case likely that I'm going to guess that we won't support all the extra signage and the extra illumination because it's sort of not established as a non-conforming situation here in the district.
And then maybe while you're making that case, they could maybe understand that when you get to 10th, to location on 10th and Carson, that they would understand that at least their branding and at least their images from one end of Carson to the other would be similar, because no one's going to, I think those are more immediate in mind's eye when you're talking about recognizing that it is a new facility, because on Carson, that's what people who live over here are going to see the most, and not so much that there's a tweaking of the branding somewhere else, in an other city location. So I would try to, do that as a twofer, to understand that, even the branding on Carson Street and the branding with the south side, there can be consistency so that they can't feel that it's that far away from their brand in other locations.
Sean, can you just talk about the flags and the banners a little bit? Is there standard stuff that you guys are doing? Is there more information about that? Or I saw the banners noted on, I think it was slide 1 was the flags, and then slide 2 showed it in the background. If you go to the second slide, maybe it's slide 3, right here on the top left-hand corner, it's just sort of light approach. Again, I'm assuming that that's something you're planning for the private posts on the property. I think there's 2 in the back, and And again, I feel like that's signage as well. And then the flags, of course, if you're going to do flags, like back on slide 1, what they are and consist of, and they're not American flags, I'm imagining, they're Amoco signs. Correct? Yeah.
These, yeah, I mean, the light approach, yeah, I bring that back. The flag signs, I'm not 100% sure about. Sometimes they call these the flag. So I would have to get more information on what flags they're proposing for this particular sign, because usually, actually, it's, these flag signs, they're located in this general area right here. Now I'm thinking of it. It's identifies the pump that's probably already currently there. And it's just dispenser 1, 2, 3.
You think just the name, like, yeah, the identification of the pump, yeah?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
They,
Again, I think that doesn't have to be lit. It doesn't say if it's lit or not, but I'm hoping not. So
I wouldn't believe it would be illuminated. They'd be attached to the poles here, and they just project out.
Sure.
And it would say, instead of 7 here, it'd say 7. It may be a little redundant, but it still identify the dispenser.
Okay. And then I had another comment about slide 6 indicates vacuums and air pumps and sort of the accoutrements of a gas stop. It doesn't say how many you're adding or fixing. This, I'll just be honest with you. This what do you want to call it? A gas station has been one of the banes of my existence on the district. It's never been kept well. It's always dirty litter, and it's always in disrepair. The air station's always broken. We don't even go there if there's an air problem. So I would be pleased if you are replacing the air. I don't know about the vacuum. It doesn't really belong here because there's no car wash, but not saying that you can't add one. But and same with the window cleaning equipment and stuff. There's not really one there now. Could you tell us what the plans are for this site regarding these accoutrements?
I think you hit it. You actually explained it very well. I mean, they would replace, upfit the facility in the way that if it's not operating, they would reinstall or update it. The vacuum, they have it at particular locations. It's just by demand. So if it's needed at this particular location, they would or consider including it. If it's not necessarily a guarantee that they'd put it in. It's just all relative of what that particular station is requiring, and that's, if the customers are requiring it, then they'll install it and provide it for them. If no one's using it, then there's no reason to put finances into something that no one's going to use.
Oh, it would be used. We have a large biking population, and people just avoid that one. I know we do because it's never operational.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
but if it was there to be used, and that would draw people in, I'm sure, as a new owner.
The vacuum doesn't work either, I don't think. So,
I don't even know if there is a vacuum, Quaylen, is there?
Sure either.
Yeah.
I'm not sure either. I know the air pump hasn't worked for years and years, even before Gecko was there.
Right.
And it's not free anymore, is it?
No, their air is not free. Their air, you have to pay, I don't know whether it's
quarter. Or
No.
no,
it's a
no,
dollar.
it's more like $1. You have to put 4 quarters in, because I think I even tried it once. Yeah, no. I came in late, so I want to ask one little question. Cohen, is this a new brand, or is this a new company that has the same kinds of facilities like statewide or nationwide, or is this just a local firm?
Oh no, it's nationwide. Yes.
Okay.
How many locations do they have approximately? Is this as big as an Esso or a whatever? I don't know. What's another brand? BP? Exxon?
Yeah, they're growing, right? So it's an initiative with Amoco and Cohen So they're operating together.
Okay.
So that's the intent. They're going to rebrand them. And that's what they're looking to do. The Sunoco's is dominantly what they're focusing on at this time. So they're re-imaging those.
Okay.
And that market is actually keeps shrinking.
Yeah.
Speedway's buying a lot.
Yeah, the smaller stations, and we have Get-Go's around us here that are more and more of them are popping up that are larger and taking over. In general, I guess, Sean, I just want to reiterate, the previous owner was not a very good operator, in my opinion, and a lot of people complained about the unkeptness and uncleanliness of the place. And I'm happy to see it being rebranded. If it's going to be there, I'm glad you're going to rebrand it and make it look a little better, hopefully a lot better. And a lot of people, it's kind of an eyesore for us. I don't actually go there because I'd hate to support it in the shape that it's in. You know what I mean? Hopefully you'll change that, in my opinion of it. So in that same vein, though, I know that a couple of the neighbors behind wanted me to mention that the dumpsters, they have been asking the previous owner for years to put an enclosure around them. They're highly visible next to the building, visible from Carson in the corner. They're just, if they're on the other side of the building, even, they'd be better off. They're just kind of an eyesore and not appreciated by the neighbors. So, and me as a user. So if that could be addressed in your rebranding of the building, that would be a great improvement in my eyes and others. So
I will bring that. I'm writing notes, so I will take that this information back and definitely share that with the client.
Appreciate it.
So I'm going to assume they're going to repave it as well, right?
Well, I wouldn't assume. I wouldn't. I mean, I'm not being facetious, but I wouldn't assume anything.
They're going to put new signage up and leave all the cracks and everything else that's there. It's not a good way to say, oh, this is new ownership. I mean, the lot itself going in there, and Mike, unlike you, I do use it.
Oh.
And so the lot that's there, I mean, even sometimes just getting into it, as winter comes and goes through, they should take a look at it because they need some repairs done, I would say. I'm just saying that as somebody who uses the place.
Yes, ma'am.
And it would be a nice site since they own it now. I'm just going to say this to you. Since they own it now, it might be nice for the people who are preparing the food to, rather than having their masks on their chin, but to have them on their face. I wouldn't buy a piece of food in there. I go in for milk and that's about it. But I wouldn't buy food in there for love nor money.
Sean, I wasn't going to bring this up because I don't think it's here nor there with the proposal you have today. But I would briefly mention, since Quaylen brought up the lot, there's a curb cut issue with this property that will eventually need to be addressed. So while you're doing this re-envisioning, you may want to just mention, I don't know where the authorized curb cut is, but historically, nearly the entire frontage on Carson Street has been pulled down to grade so that there is no curb, which has essentially created a property with long curb cut that is unsafe for pedestrians and the parking lot itself. It encourages cars to enter that parking lot at higher rates of speed. There's no direction as to where the car is supposed to enter the parking lot, and there's not really any signage on that side to indicate where the driveway is. Unfortunately, when the city just redid the district there, because there was no curb, they reinstalled it with no curb. But it is a dangerous situation. So, taking a look at whether or not there should be a left-hand turn there and where cars are supposed to be driving, and maybe contacting PennDOT to see where the curb cut actually is, that may all be like a necessary thing to look at as you re-envision the lot.
And I think this is maybe we should just mention that the survey there, that survey is way outdated. The canopy doesn't actually exist where it's drawn. And I believe the building's misplaced on that site as well. It's further sheet right. So yeah, there's a fair amount of information incorrect here. Curb cut should also be dimensioned and located, as part of that. I think it said on here 1999 or something. What was it? 1995?
Yeah, I saw somewhere too. It was very old.
Yes.
So not that 95's old, so but
for a survey, it is.
So drawing wise, Sean, I'd like to add a couple other things. The gal who sits behind in the desk behind me is on the Historic Review Commission and may have happened to have glanced at these drawings of yours that I had up on my screen yesterday, and couple requests. One is the site plan, which Mike just brought up. If it could be tagged to identify where all these signs are going, to make it easier for the HRC to understand. But beyond that, at the front end of your presentation, to have a whole bunch more existing conditions photographs and context looking down the street. So that when you do go before the HRC, the whole panel isn't opening Google Street View on their other screen to see, where all this stuff is. So if you could add that to your presentation, it would help your case.
yeah, I don't disagree. It's a hodgepodge. You've got two different entities doing two different things on the property.
I understand that, but yeah, just to make it an easier something for a group of people to follow.
Yes.
You're trying to make the case.
I appreciate that.
I had a couple comments. Could you go back to slide number 3?
Sure.
That's a good one there. Right. Down on the bottom here, it says direction of swoosh. What does that mean?
Oh, you see at the bottom I'm sorry, I'll hit my cursor. This and the swoosh. This is their swoosh. So it goes out, but it's the striping on the canopy right here, or the striping.
Oh.
At the top of the dispenser, at the bottom of the dispenser.
Okay, and to the right there, that direction of swoosh is pointing towards the store.
Yes.
And then the other side is pointing towards the street. I see. Oh, okay. And one other quick one that you may not know the answer to. You had earlier said that the sign options now would only show pricing for regular and some kind of club.
Yeah, it was on the freestanding sign.
Yeah.
This.
Yeah, there. Yeah.
The Cohen Club, that's like the discount. So if you're a member of, you don't have I was thinking like a Meijer or Walmart, they give you a discount if you're a member.
Okay.
That's the price, regular price, and then you have the discount price if you drive in and you're a Cohen member.
Okay, so you don't know the price of diesel or high test. You don't get that number.
I believe this particular location is only going to be unleaded. That's what
Just
is
regular unleaded.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I can speak to that to some degree. At the other Cogo's location and at BP, when they changed from the old style, hand applied letters like what's shown there on the left, the Cogo sign, and went to digital. At those two locations, they only allowed the regular gas price, one LED set of numbers, because we didn't want to see 3, 4, 5 sets of LEDs illuminating the sign. And then again, on this one you're proposing, Sean, you know, the 888 numbers at the top,
Mhm.
all that lettering would have to be 18 inches max.
Yeah, and
You're exceeding all that. So
yes.
we'll talk about that in LRC, whether, you know, again, we want to hold to one set of prices, one set of LED numbers, like the other gas stations. And again, the rebranding and all this sign panel stuff, you know, the less full panel acrylic rear illuminated it is, the better. And like at the other Cogo's sign that was changed in 2016, that's sort of the precedent. So if you know, remove the temporary bag off that sign and look at the way the graphics were done.
Okay.
Like Cogo at that time, I believe most of it is painted graphics on metal panels. There may be a few push view areas, and it's also different in that sign. The 10th Street is externally illuminated, has spotlights on it, which is what the district guidelines want.
Yeah.
Signage in general. So, you know, we'll push back about if you're just changing the acrylic panel with another acrylic panel and it's all brightly lit.
Yeah,
we're
you don't
gonna
want to. You don't want to. Yeah, you made that comment of having blackout, and that is a potential solution that I'll present as well. And I understand this changeable copy. This was a manual, and moving towards this particular location, it helps regulate. It doesn't. Then this could be regulated. The gas prices could be regulated at a central office, where it doesn't. The person doesn't have to go out and get the information, then move up and changes periodically, i.e., basically every 15 minutes. So this is why they're moving towards a digital. It's more controlled to be able to change the gas prices instantaneously as they fluctuate within the market.
And it's embarrassing when they put the numbers upside down.
Yes. Well, or it's advertising because you take a look at it. I don't know, but
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, no, we've heard the same argument at the other locations, and
Sure.
so HRC did allow that exception into the code as a precedent to change and allow LED numbers at gas stations. So you're over the hump there. Now we're going to argue about the number. That's all.
Yeah,
Someone
sure.
have one set of numbers. You're asking for two.
Yeah,
We'll
and the size.
well, definitely the size. That's no one's been allowed to have larger than 18-inch letters in the district. Period.
Now, may I ask you real quick on if we did blackout on this white? Let me see if I got the nighttime one. So this, if you go back, this is going to not be illuminated. So if we went out with black, I would assume that these are.
We would probably allow you to do push-through letters on the Cohen and your little Cohen logo symbol.
Yeah, like maybe even a pan form, push it out, and then you black out behind it.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking how I can present that to the sign manufacturer to be able to do that, and see if that is even something that already exists. They may already do. It seems to be so that they do a pushed out. So then we'd put back on the back out here, we'd put blackout. So it already looks like it is pan formed. Is essentially what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I'm saying it's done two ways. I think the BP sign is a metal panel with push-through acrylic letters that are illuminated, and I think the other Cogo signs are, if I remember their drawings from 2016, I glanced at them. They were full acrylic panels, so it was all one piece of molded acrylic plastic. But they blacked out inside the sign panel and just did the graphics as illuminated. So you would have either option.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think Sunoco at the other Cogos is applied graphics, not illuminated. Again, I tried to go back there last night and tonight to see it illuminated, but the bag's over it, so I can't see all of it to know that was the precedent. So
okay, we
would ask HRC to consider that the precedent in making these changes and do similar things. If Sunoco's opaque, your Amico's opaque. If Cogo's was illuminated, Cohen's illuminated. You just kind of
meet the existing conditions.
Yeah.
Okay, that's And I'm assuming with the light bar, that is, if it's not there, it would be advantageous for us to continue to meet the existing condition.
Yeah, it can be graphics, can be applied painted graphics.
Understood.
I'm also curious, Sean, in your drawings, it shows the height of that canopy at 36 inches and some little note somewhere that says, if it's not already 36, make it 36. Do you know what the existing height is of the canopy, the band, the face?
You know, I might. I have to see if I have the, I don't know if we received the technical survey.
So I guess what I'm getting around to is it making this band wider so you can fit more signage on it? And if that's the case, I'd say just keep it where it is.
Yeah, what I think, if it is 30, for costs and how if you've ever seen one of these installed, it's kind of amazing. They just take this frame. They just take this and it's done within an hour. They'll skin it.
I've seen them run over in hurricanes too.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't get hurricanes up here.
Yeah, but that's why we have the SEDs. But what they'll do is just peel that back and then they'll have a skeleton and they reapply it. So the 36-inch applies, likely they get it in a roll, and that's a price consideration when you're doing the manufacturing and installation. However, I will find out what the Sunoco was, and if it's and 36 inches does also allow for the electric, for the illuminated Amico and the light bars themselves. So that's also an accommodation, and it gives us some conspicuity and some clear space between the letters and the coloring. So
I get it. I guess I'm not so crazy about the conspicuity of gas station lid, you know.
I understand.
I walked by, took a photo, and it looks more like 30 inches tall. More than
And
30.
maybe I will look at that, and I will get the survey, because it had to be done.
Yeah. I just found the drawing for the Carson Street improvement project. I just wanted you to be aware of it. You probably aren't, but the city can share with you the actual drawings. If I can just share the screenshot, I can show everybody that the curb cut will be reduced, actually.
You want me to stop sharing?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no worries.
I'll just share my second screen here. And there it is. So you're the top right corner.
Mm-hmm.
You can see there's going to be a bump out built that's going to take up half of your frontage at least. And that's not built yet, I guess. Neither is the other side. So there will be some remedy, I guess, to the curb cut issue, but to push it further page right. But having it more defined would definitely be something we would love to see as a community. It's just kind of a 200-300 foot long depressed curb right now. It's like, it's not very defined. As a pedestrian, it's kind of scary. You don't know when people are going to zing off the road and cut you off to get into the parking lot. There's no defined area turnoff. So this is going to help it, but if it could be helped more, that would be great.
Hey, Mike, on that drawing right there, are they placing a tree down there in the middle of the sidewalk? Where's that, on the right-hand side?
That's a light standard.
No, to the right. See the note?
That's another light right there. I believe.
Okay, where's that? Okay, they're placing a tree somewhere over there.
Yeah, so on the, further down on the next property, there's a tree, and you can see them across the street. They're called out with arrows and.
Okay.
But not in front of this, no. Okay, I'll stop sharing.
I was just curious with those improvements, that I don't think that will that affect any setbacks?
No.
Okay.
It's just going to impact your access.
Yeah.
And hopefully the aesthetic.
Yep. Okay.
Because they're looking good where they're done. They're looking good.
So does anyone else have any questions or comments? What I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, we've talked about things that are related to the HRC, and there were some around zoning. What if there are variances? What variances are going to be requested? And then we were hearing about just overall community issues around the Cohen Market. And I don't believe that you're our access right now, Sean, to Cohen Market people. And I think that I think it would be important for us to talk with representatives from Cohen Market, because there are two of them in our neighborhood. They're at two sides of two ends of Carson Street. There are people that use them, people that don't. I'm somewhat with Mike about not going in, because there are other stores that I can go to, but they don't come across as being very clean to me. And even when you're just in the parking area, and I think it would be good for the Cohen representatives to hear that, because it is part of our community. And although they can't survive merely on residents, they could probably be pulling in a lot more residents if the places were more seen and actually were more inviting. And so there's there's an opportunity there for them that they should take advantage of. I think you can share that there definitely is an interest. And there are residents who live, as Mike said, right behind and on South 24th Street, and above and below Carson, who would have opinions and comments and suggestions. But I'm also suggesting, so with all of that, I'm wondering if it's a good idea. You have a lot to think about, to schedule additional meetings, possibly just with around the HRC piece, around the zoning piece, and around the community piece, so that when you go to these different commissions, you'll be you can actually share that that there was a lot of community input, and that you've taken community input. So I don't know if anyone has anyone agrees or has comments related to that, but it probably would be helpful to you and to Cohen Markets to continue a dialogue with us on these various pieces.
Yeah, Barb, I would just add to Sean, we invite you to meet with LRC separately to help, since you're kind of far off from a provable plan at the moment. We're seeing various issues. You're not required to come see us, but we will write comments to the HRC based on what we see. And if there's no further developments, then we will obviously object to numerous things that have kind of raised here. So you're welcome to join us, and we'll, it's free. And there's 5 architects, and we've worked in the district for years and years. And so we would certainly make ourselves available to you through a Zoom call to work this through a bit. And if the owners want to be part of that conversation, certainly bring them along. I assume you won't go to the March HRC. You could. You'll miss the February. I believe they've already posted or about to post the agenda. So it's up to you guys to decide. But LRC is available besides this meeting to meet with you and continue working you towards an approvable set of, on the district guidelines. The other zoning stuff is everybody else's purview. But within the East Carson Street district guidelines, we would help you finesse through the signage issues on that.
Sure. Yeah, and then I'm sorry,
And
go ahead.
I also I'd like to add, Sean, that the HRC, it really respects the input that the LRC provides. Zoning, if you go before the zoning board, they're also very respectful of community engagement. And then just, the other piece, to be part of our community, if they're starting out, it's to their benefit to do that.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I understand that.
Mhm. So anyone have any more comments? And I'll send you, some email information and some follow-up, after the meeting today, so that you can, you'll have it as you move forward.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Mhm. I'm using my teacher pause, to if anyone has anything else.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Okay, thanks to everyone. And I think that there's a last slide, but I think those that are on the call, do know, we've talked about, where you can go, and please come to the community council if you're not part of the council, if you have other comments, and we'll also, we can talk about some of this offline. And then our next dam is scheduled for February 25th. I think we at least have one presentation. And again, that deals with HRC and probably zoning. So
Sorry, I just wanted to ask, because I had two neighbors text me while we were on the call. They couldn't make the meeting, Scott Hollander.
Yeah.
And I know you said before that they're recorded. Will they be on the website? And how long does that take, Anthony, typically before they're
we put it on it's shared with me by tomorrow. Phil will share it with me, and Kathleen Petrillo does a great job of, we finally figured out how to get it onto the YouTube page. So that
Great.
will be on within a day or two.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Have a good night.
Okay. Thanks to everyone.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I look forward to your email, and I'll take this information, and I'll have a conversation with the entities tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a great evening.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night.